What's the most amazing thing about the universe? The only way we can see the universe is from inside it. We will likely never possess any way of viewing our universe from outside its physicality. This is one I thought about recently. I believe that Carl Sagan said that we, sentient entities, are a way for the cosmos to know itself. With this in mind, when we think about the end of our universe, whether it be through a big shrink, big cooling, or what have you, we get apprehensive. We probably will never see this end. Many of us will be dead, yet, we still get a cold fear in our hearts. We are also a way for the cosmos to fear its demise. Whales are the biggest known creatures in the known universe. They are the biggest animal, but the biggest organism is an aspen tree colony that has expanded over miles, and the second largest animal is Yo Mama. That every single random event since the dawn of creation, the birth and death of stars, planets and galaxies, the very genesis of life has led to you being here right now to ask this question, and I, making this useless comment. Thanks universe. One of my favorite is about the number of unique orders for cards in a standard 52 card deck. I've seen a really good explanation of how big 52 actually is. Set a timer to count down 52 seconds. That's 8.0658 x 1067 seconds. Stand on the equator and take a step forward every billion years. When you've circled the earth once, take a drop of water from the Pacific Ocean and keep going. When the Pacific Ocean is empty, lay a sheet of paper down, refill the ocean and carry on. When your stack of paper reaches the sun, take a look at the timer. The three leftmost digits won't have changed. 8.063 x 1067 seconds left to go. You have to repeat the whole process 1000 times to get 1/3 of the way through that time. 5.385 x 1067 seconds left to go. So to kill that time you try something else. Shuffle a deck of cards. Deal yourself 5 cards every billion years. Each time you get a royal flush, buy a lottery ticket. Each time that ticket wins the jackpot, throw a grain of sand in the Grand Canyon. When the Grand Canyon's full, take 1 ounce of rock off Mount Everest. Empty the canyon and carry on. When Everest has been leveled, check the timer. There's barely any change. 5.364 x 1067 seconds left. You'd have to repeat this process 256 times to have run out the timer. If I'm not mistaken, I read that every time you shuffle a deck of cards, chances are nobody ever shuffled it in that order. Probably no two random shuffles by anyone were ever the same. Imagine being transported to a parallel universe that was almost identical to our own. Somewhere out in the vastness of that universe, there is a tiny planet. This much is true in both universes. On this planet, there is a beach, and on that beach, there is a small stone. Once again, both universes are alike in this regard. Beneath that stone, however, there are several million grains of sand, and while they all are in precisely the same location in each universe, one of them a tiny speck of particularly clear quartz, hewn from a larger hole millions of years before, has a single atom that is positioned a fraction of a femtometer differently than its twin in the mirror dimension. You may think that such an insignificant difference would label these two universes as being functionally identical, and you would be right. In fact, they are so similar that the multiverse has long since combined them into one reality. That single atom in that tiny speck of sand on that lonesome beach on a distant planet merely occupies two spaces at once, seeming to an outside observer to vibrate back and forth at a predictable rate. That every atom in existence seems to do the same is probably a coincidence. TLDR, everything is buzzing. The multiverse interpretation of quantum mechanics is an intriguing idea. There's a related thought experiment called quantum suicide. Basically, you try killing yourself with a gun that only fires when a spin-half particle, with two possible states, is measured to have spin in a certain direction when the trigger is pulled. In quantum mechanics, before the spin is measured, it exists as a superposition of both spin up and spin down, simultaneously. If the particle is measured to have spin down, it doesn't fire. If it is spin up, it fires. But the idea is that to you, and you alone, as the observer, it will always seem as if the gun doesn't fire. According to the multiverse interpretation, the particle actually collapses into both states upon measurement, but in two different universes. and usually we only see one because we as observers are randomly shunted into one of the possible universes along with the collapse of the particle's state. However, in this case, in one of the universes you would be dead due to the trigger setting off, so you should only experience the second possibility, that is, staying alive, because that is the only one in which you are still conscious. No matter how many times you pull the trigger, the idea goes, the gun never fires and you should always survive. From your own perspective, an outside observer, watching you carry out the quantum suicide, would not always see you survive though, since he would remain alive and conscious in both possible timelines, and to him you have a 50/50 chance of dying. As expected, BRB shooting myself to test the theory, as a literal quantum physicist. This is a very interesting way to think about it, and I don't know if I like it or not. As someone who just gave a quantum physicist an existential crisis, let me say this: happy cake day. That it exists, and it came from somewhere, or nowhere. I really hate thinking about this kind of stuff. It kinda feels like if I think too hard about why matter exists or where it came from and other similar questions, that everything might suddenly come undone or cease to exist. It must be true that either it didn't exist, then it did, or it has always existed. What even is time? The space in which space can change. The space of space. You should read a book called Fabric of the Cosmos by Brian Greene. Essentially what it boils down to is the direction in which objects move from low states of entropy to higher states is the direction in which we measure time. Take the 13.8 billion year lifetime of the universe and map it onto a single year, so that the Big Bang takes place on the 1st of January at midnight, and the current time is mapped to the 31st of December at midnight. On this timeline, anatomically modern humans don't show up until about 11:52 p.m. on the 31st of December, and all of recorded history takes place during the last 10 seconds. This concept is called the cosmic calendar, popularized by Carl Sagan. I love comparisons like that. That's actually ridiculous. We've been here an hour and a half though, would have thought a second, or it has never existed. This is all my dream. Hydrogen time, people and planets. Hydrogen, given enough time, will send unsolicited dick pics. In order to bake apple pie you must first create the universe. That somehow all the particles accumulated in a specific way and in specific quantities to give you conscious thought. There are 10 million particles in the universe that we can observe. Your mama took the ugly ones and put them into one nerd. Flashback to 2012. That whatever our problems are, big or small, it won't matter in 1 million years. Worst being a nuclear war or something. I got 99 problems and the universe doesn't give a f about any of them. How young it is. People look at the universe being 13.7 billion years old and say that is ancient. That is nothing. Stars will continue to form for another 100 trillion years. Even after that, stellar remnants will exist for quadrillions of years. Black holes will still produce energy that can be used by intelligent civilizations for 10,100 years. Keep in mind, if biological life doesn't destroy itself, we will just keep getting more and more knowledge. It's probably a safe bet that within 500 years, which is nothing on universal timescales, we will be an interstellar species that has long ago transcended biology. There is no telling what our descendants will do for the remaining life of the universe. The 4-5 billion years of biological evolution of life on Earth will be looked at as an embryonic stage for endless quintillions of years of real life to begin post-biology. They will view the universe as their oyster, a place of infinite possibilities, while we are still just spending our days trying not to die and trying to avoid being punished by our brains with pain. Black holes will still produce energy that can be used by intelligent civilizations for 10,100 years. The thing that freaks me out is that no matter how far off a point you imagine in the future, that moment will eventually be now. The passage of time is inexorable no matter how far off a point in time you imagine. Time will keep moving forward without fail and reach the moment you imagined. As a child, I used to imagine what it would be like to be an adult. Back then, it felt like 10 years or 20 years in the future was so far away. But that 10 years, 20 years past, I am now an adult and have reached the point in time that I used to imagine was so far off. So, too, will the year 10,100 eventually come. So, too, Will the year 1 billion and 10 million eventually come? No matter how big a number I come up with, time will keep ticking and eventually reach that number. At that point, the universe will have been an empty and cold void for most of its history. Cold emptiness will be the universe's natural state, the time when the universe had planets, stars, black holes, galaxies, and life was only a momentary glitch, barely even registering in the overwhelming majority of void and emptiness, like the snap of a finger compared to an eternity. This is assuming a heat death scenario. There are other potential worries before we reach 10E102 as I understand it. Proton decay may happen in a far shorter time scale. Also, if a phase transition in the Higgs field were to happen, that could end existences such as ours as well. As I understand it, it gave us magnets. How do those work? Magnets are effing magic. Aligning particles with each other makes them fly towards themselves. Miss me with that hobbit-knocking physics bollocks. By sticking together. Any other questions? Why does my pee-pee hurt? Inanimate non-living objects eventually formed to make sentient, living beings that question their own existence and want to find facts about the process between the beginning of the universe to now, and even want to anticipate the future. All from some hydrogen chess floating around and doing stuff. Kinda similar. Everything we have on this earth comes from this earth. This means that it was always possible to have electricity, planes, internet, Wi-Fi, mobile phones, etc. Even in the Stone Ages, humans just hadn't invented it yet. It's indifferent to everything. Yes, it's incredible to think that for all of our morals, our ideas of good karma and bad karma, what goes around comes around, etc. These ideas that feel so ingrained to the world we live in are all mere thoughts in our head, and that the world, the universe, is not just, and seems nothing as good or bad, guilty or innocent, but simply is. Something I simply cannot comprehend with words. I don't care. The universe. There is a theory which states that if ever anyone discovers exactly what the universe is for and why it is here, it will instantly disappear and be replaced by something even more bizarre and inexplicable. There is another theory which states that this has already happened. Douglas Adams. In the beginning the universe was created. This had made many people very angry and has been widely regarded as a bad move. We apologize for the inconvenience, God. That we just don't understand it. It could be flat. It could be irregular. There could be another one. It's growing at an exponential speed. It's invisible contents. We try to learn more about it using our earthly knowledge, but there is certainly more to it. It's like trying to wrap your head around eternity. This exactly. We don't know what is out there and can only really guess through theories from our already obtained knowledge, which, as of today, is most likely just a drop in the ocean compared to the universe in its entirety. Because of this, the potential is endless, and that idea is very exciting and terrifying. We could all be dead tomorrow by some sh we didn't know was coming. That it doesn't exist to be observed. In fact, under different circumstances, all of its trillions of stars and planets and oceans and moons and mountains could exist for billions of years without ever being observed by anyone. They might very well have existed for 14 billion years before consciousness was a thing here, but not 15 billion. Never 15 billion. Look again at that dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. It everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives, the aggregate of our joy and suffering, thousands of confident religions, ideologies, and economic doctrines, every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization, every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every mother and father, hopeful child, inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there on a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam. Carl Sagan, a pale blue dot. This is the image being referenced in this quote. That is us from about 4 billion miles away. That's not even close to being outside of our own solar system, let alone our galaxy. It really puts into perspective just how tiny we are. I had a hard time finding it cause my laptop screen is dirty. I find this extremely comforting. No matter how much I feel like a ref up, ultimately it doesn't matter because everything is so insignificant in the grand scheme of things. If you nut in space you move backwards. Do you have videographic evidence of this? Spacehub.com two possibilities exist. Either we are alone in the universe or we are not. Both are equally terrifying. Arthur C. Clarke. Arthur C. Clarke is also responsible for such gems as, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. It may be that our role on this planet is not to worship God but to create him. And, I'm sure the universe is full of intelligent life. It's just been too intelligent to come here. Arthur C. Clarke is a brilliant man and a prodigy of an author, and his books are right up the alley of anyone who clicked on this thread out of a curious love for the universe. I highly recommend any and all of his books and short stories. What if the universe is self-similar to the extent that other identical Earths exist? Then we'd be alone with ourselves. We came all this way for this, New Jersey, again. Matter, when subjected to enough energy and time, becomes sentient and ponders its own existence, like a really fed up diamond. Honestly, why even buy a diamond if it can't live an existential nightmare as you look on in ever-growing uneasiness, knowing even though you try to push the thoughts away that one day you too will fade from existence, and from memory, until there's no one left to remember you? That it created self-aware entities that think about it. Given enough time, hydrogen gives itself a name. Given enough time, hydrogen atoms will start to masturbate. That it created self-aware entities that think about it. Of all the most amazing things, the tree that grows, the bird that sings, the wind that blows, the words unsaid, the stars above, the years ahead, the sailing seas, the misty night, the scented breeze, the candle light, the beating heart, the only friend, the fleeting start, the lonely end, the falling rain, the winter's day, the grief, the pain, the beach, the bay, the turning tides, the open mile, the time that bites, the sob, the smile, the art, the air, the good, the grace, the perfect world, the perfect place. Of all the things there are to see, the most amazing thing is me. Plenty of things. The way we perceive the universe, in its physical form, we think it's all around us, on a cosmic scale, but more than that, it's inside all of us. We're made of each and every atom that the universe is comprised of. It sounds super philosophical and like something a stoned person would say, but the distinct genus within our universe is what sets everyone apart. The way each of us, made up of the same elements of this universe, yet managed to be so different. Perhaps you could say the greatest and rather miraculous thing of all is in fact, life. Its size compared to its speed limit. Can you please elaborate? Maybe a life 5. If you could. If the known universe was the size of the Earth, then light would take 3,000 years to travel 1 meter. Universe big. Speed of light slow compared to bigness. The universe is in no obligation to make sense to you. Neil deGrasse Tyson, I think. It gave us titties, and other things.